All right, welcome back. Um, so I was just sharing with the students here. I was just saying if it would be okay for me to also take the third hour. That way, I'll be able to complete the portions for the local church, and then I'll also be able to set up your assignment for the final assessment for this course. So I hope it's all right. If it's okay, just put a thumbs up, and but I'll try to finish it in this hour. But if I don't, we just maybe need a few minutes for the third hour as well. Thank you so much. Okay, so we'll get into the next aspect: organize to become an explosive force for God. Now, why do we want to organize our church? Why do we want to organize? So that we become efficient and work effectively. Now, in the next class, we'll be learning about next year. You'll be learning about urban church planting, church administration. So you'll learn a lot more in detail on how we at APC do our administration and things that we do here. But how can we be effective when it comes to a proper organization and administration, right? Few points. Number one, form a legal organization, right? Form a trust. You're planting a church, planting a ministry, form a trust first thing. Don't try to do anything without that. Very important. Two, develop an organizational structure. Now, you may have 10 people in church. You still have you develop a structure. One day, I will have senior pastor, associate pastor, worship pastor, youth pastor, volunteer teams. What are you doing? You're organizing a structure for your church. How many people in your church? 10 people. But you're looking ahead. So it's not like I don't know what to do. Suddenly people are coming to church. Now we are 50, we're 100. I don't know what to do. No, you've already organized a structure. You can write it down now that we all have access to laptops and all of it. You can just have it on a Word document. Prepare yourself for the future, right? Start simple, let it grow from there. Right? And I always say this: what you all see at APC is all over many years. It took time. Many times people come up to us and say, "Hey, I want my church to be like this." That's good to have a vision, but you can't. It's very unlikely that it will start off like this. Right? There was a time when we had two old speakers and two old mics. Worship band was one keyboardist, one guitarist, and one old drum kit we had. That's all it was. And slowly it started improving, getting better. People started coming. Good musicians started coming in. They began to teach the worship team. Eventually, we have come to a certain place, right? Even when you talk about structure, over time, our conferences, events, uh, we are able to get to a place of excellence only because it is structured over time. Then you have systems, people, and processes in place. Within the organizational structure, clearly defined systems. What is systems? The way things are done. So when you have a church or a ministry, this is the way we will do it. How? 6 a.m. sound and setup team must come. Example, right? 6 a.m. sound and setup team must come. This is how we will do it. Systems in place. Then people who are responsible for doing what. Right now, it could be volunteer based or it could be staff based. Even if it's volunteer based, you are putting the structures in place. There was a time we were 10 people in APC working staff. 10 people. That's it. Others, everything was volunteers. Right now, we have many more people. But over time, even you teach your volunteers, eventually they can grow up, and if there's a calling on their lives, they can become staff in the church. But who is responsible for doing what? Thirdly, processes. How these things will get done. So three aspects here. One, the systems, the way things are done. Two, the people, who's responsible for doing what. And three, the processes, how these things will get done. These are the three main areas when it comes to church administration. So look at Bible College if you know here in-person students. What are the systems? 6 a.m., wake up, prayer time, breakfast, you come to Bible college, you start off with devotions, worship, devotion, break, get into your, you have the whole timetable. And then within that, how can I make sure that this timetable is effectively done? We need leaders. So somebody who makes a roster for worship team, somebody who makes a roster for the one who's sharing the devotions, somebody who makes a roster for the food in charge and time in charge, all of these things, people are set in place. Three, how will we get these done? You train them. When you came, your first year, in the first week, did you know what you're going to do here? First week of Bible college, did you know? 2 weeks of Bible college, did you know? Little bit at least. 1 month into Bible college, you know what you're doing? That's it. Right? So the same way, you set systems, you have people, and then you also direct them on how to get things done. Right? Then prepare jobs and role description. When there are work opportunities within an organization, you have job descriptions. What must he do? What must a videographer do? A graphics designer do? IT team, media team. And I think right now we've come to a place that every ministry will have a media team. Right? A church will have a media team. Buy one camera, connect it to the laptop, live stream. Have one stage, that's it, live stream. Not a big deal. Right? So I think you'll need a media team, videographer. So what is it that they must do? Set the responsibilities. How the recording must be done. How the editing must be done. What is so you can set these guidelines for them. Then establish organizational guidelines and policy. Every team that APC has have volunteer guidelines. APC church staff, we have guidelines. Pastoral team, we have guidelines. Every team has guidelines. Guidelines will help us to understand where we are. Are we doing things right? Are we in line with the vision of the church? So this is where you as a leader must set guidelines. Don't expect others to set the guidelines for your ministry. You set the guidelines. And when you set the guidelines, people will begin to follow that. That means you're setting things in place. Planning and performance review. Now, it's good to work. Throughout the year, we work hard, right? Even volunteers, or whether you're working as a church staff, review your performance. Now, you can have personal review, or you can have an organizational review. Meaning, here's the thing. One thing that I do is every month, I personally review my work. So I go back and I see, okay, what are things I've done? What are things I haven't done? But what are things that I have done well? Things that I've not done well. Right? And I look and I say, okay, this is the difference now. This is what's happening here. And then I try to improve. I do this every month. Then in 6 months, we have at office, we have a half-yearly review. Right? So we sit with our leaders, or we sit with our team members, and we have it. And then in this, so the first review is in June or July, and then the next review is in January. So January of the next year, we'll talk about what we did in 24 and what worked, what didn't work. We will basically put it all on paper. Because I can say I did 10 things, but when you put it on paper, it's only 2 things I've done. But I've said, oh, I've done 1, 2, 3, 4. Put on paper, nothing is there. We don't want that. Review your work. Review and see if this is what I've done. Is it effective? So you can have performance reviews in your church. Especially, even if they're volunteers, you can say, hey, volunteer team leaders, I want to meet with you. Come, have all the volunteer team leaders. And then you review their work, either personally or as a team. You can review and say, okay, what we've done well, how we can improve. At some of our locations, the location that I am at, APC East, every month they have a review. Every month they say, okay, 4 Sundays, these are all volunteers. Huh? These are all IT guys working in the IT sector, so they're very accurate. They'll put down on paper. They have an Excel sheet where to keep the bench. So I saw that Excel sheet. I thought, my God, it's so organized. Why? Because that's how they are in the office. So they put it here. When I go to church, I have to do nothing. Everything is done by them. So organized, and it's such a blessing. Everything is. Why? Because they have guidelines and they follow those guidelines. They set things in place. They review their work. Right? One of the ushering team, the leaders came up to me and said, Pastor, are you getting disturbed during the communion? I said, no, not really. No, what I've noticed is during communion, people are talking. Now, people are walking into church. So what we're going to do is from now, we'll make the people who are coming late during communion, they have to stand, they have to wait so that they don't disturb the others who are partaking. Now, that was a good thing. Right? So they keep reviewing, they keep looking at ways to improve. And that's wonderful. So empower decision making. As you are a leader, once you have done most of the work, it is easy to delegate responsibilities and empower people to make decisions. Right? We talked about that. Then adapt to change. Now, as the local church keeps growing, new generations, new youth, teens will become youth will get into middle age. Now that you see a lot of folks in church, especially in some of our central and our locations, you'll see them carrying baby. They were all teens, teen church, right? Who eventually became youth, and now they're married with children, right? So we're all small kids, like teens church. Of course, we didn't have teens church, but they were all very small, 17, 18, right? But the way we did church that time and the way we do church now may be very different. Now, as a leader, I must learn to adapt to change. I cannot say we did this 10 years back, so we'll do it now like this itself. No. 10 years back, we had 5 monitors on the stage to hear ourselves. Now, not even one speaker is on the stage. Why? We have in-ear cables. We use in-ears. Okay, we can hear ourselves. So I can't say, no, let's have that the way we did it last time, we'll do it like that only. No. I need to learn to adapt to change. 10 years back, we didn't have teen church. Why do we need teen church? We need it. 10 years back, we did fasting prayer like this. But why are we doing it now this way? Because we felt this is better now. So we must, as leaders, we must learn to adapt to changes as the church keeps growing. 2034. Now, we may have gone through a certain phase. Now you have the teens now who have become youth leaders now. They will become youth leaders. Now, the way the ministry is done will be different. If you look at APC 10 years from now, it will definitely be different. The way, of course, the core values, all of that will be there. That's what we want to establish. But the way church is done, things may change. We don't know how it's going to be. Right? So we must learn to adapt to change. Now, on page 237, you see a picture there of our organizational structure, and this is something that we follow at APC. So you got the senior pastor. Under the senior pastor are associate pastors. Associate pastors basically are those who look after church locations, right? When there is a main church and different locations, they become associate pastors. And then you have pastors, right? Regular pastors in the team. That forms the pastoral team. Under the pastoral team are 3 other teams. You got ministry teams, volunteer teams, and church staff. When I say under the pastoral team, doesn't mean in rank, right? What we are saying is it's an organizational structure. Now, as a pastor, I cannot do anything without the church staff. I need them. If I'm doing an event or a conference, I cannot do anything. I need all of them. I need the IT team. I need the media team. I need graphics. I need the administration team to book the place, food. So many things involved. I need the sound team. They need to bring the sound there and set up everything. Right? So many teams involved. So I can't do it on my own. We work together as a team. This structure here. So the volunteers teams are so the pastoral team is mostly Bivocational meaning there are responsibilities of teaching, preaching. That's what we are doing here, right? Teaching, preaching, ministry, evangelism, missions. And then the volunteer teams is more of getting the things done, administration things, right? Then you have ministry teams. Ministry teams are in some way a direct extension of pastoral ministry. That means what? Uh, the ministry team, you can be part of. Okay, so for example, we have member care team, right? It's a ministry team. Now, in this member care team, we have people working in the member care team. What are they doing? They're doing mostly what a pastor does: calling up church members, connecting with them, people who are need help. They're going visiting during bereavement, during maybe birthdays. If they request, they go. So member care. It's a ministry team, right? Life group leaders, women's ministry, men's ministry, all these leaders are part of ministry teams. Then we have the church staff. Church staff, normally salaried staff, and they do all the work. They do all the work. There was a time, I think Pastor Jay also shared at the youth missions when we were everything. Sound team, worship team, everything we were. Setup team, sound team, worship team, tear down, transport team, everything. In one car we had, that was Pastor Jake's car. Dump everything in the car and go. Everything we used to do. PPT, the PowerPoint. So either Pastor Jay will do it or I'll do it. We'll do a PPT. These are the songs we'll do. And if Pastor Ashish is sharing a word, we have his PPT. Everything we used to do. But now, you've got teams. So now it's so convenient. It's good to do. I'm not saying that we were not effective that time, but sometimes we didn't know what to do. Imagine I'm playing bass, pastor is playing the guitar, and some sound is coming through. Nobody's there. I can't say reduce the volume. Who to tell? So what we used to do is we used to see who's around. If any of our church folks would be there, we'd say, hey, you just come stand here. If any sound, anything comes, you do this. What we used to do. And sometimes nobody's there. One person lead. That's it. And the other person is in the sound. So the point I'm trying to say is we did it at that time, but now things have changed. And now when we see how the church is functioning, so effective. And all we have to do is, we know an event, for the youth missions you saw, right? Every team, I don't know how many teams were there. My God. So many teams, but all of us worked together. Right, and made it so beautiful. Now, do you think if it was 2-3 people, they can work it out? Not possible at all. But it was very well managed, right? So you need church staff, and church staff helps in different capacities, right? Now, how can I be a strong leader? Vision, to hear from God, wisdom, the ability to make right decisions, communication. Learn to communicate what you want to get done. That's a sign of a good leader, to communicate. You get your volunteers together and you say, hey, I want the church to be like this. Don't worry. Now we don't look like this. One day there'll come a time. We'll have 100 people. One day there'll come a time. We'll have a drum kit. Right? We'll have a good band playing in the worship team. You'll have people. You communicate what you want in your church. Right? Delegation. Learn to delegate. Even if you have 20 people in church, delegate. Give them to read. Hey, why don't you lead the prayer? 15 minutes prayer. These are 3 points you lead. What are you doing? From the beginning, you're putting it across that, hey, as a leader, I want to raise up other leaders. I don't want to be a one-man show here. Right? Small things, you say. I remember in Bangalore, we were only 10, 12 people. So and they were all elderly folks. So I said, okay. I told one uncle, you lead the prayer. I told another uncle, you stand outside and those who are coming in, you greet them. They told me there's the same people. No, there's nobody new. Yeah, you just greet them. So every week, one person was greeting something. Another uncle, okay, you You do the communion, keep it here. And book table, you do this. We were how many people? 10 or 12 people, that's it. But as we started growing, things started changing. And they understood, oh, there's value in what we are doing. Right? So you delegate. Have people development, the ability to help people rise to higher levels. Sign of a good leader is to take a person and raise him up to a higher level. That's what Paul did to Timothy, to Titus. Took them, identified them, raised them up to greater ability of higher levels of spiritual and personal growth. People management, the ability to discern people's hearts, the ability to resolve interpersonal conflicts. Now, I always say this, a leader must be people oriented. You and I, as leaders, must be able to learn to talk to people, communicate with people. Now, when I say this, it doesn't mean just simply talk unwanted things. But there will be times you will have to communicate with people. You will have to, deal with people. Don't be surprised when people come to you with problems among themselves because of disagreements, arguments, strife, whatever it is. Don't be surprised. As a leader, you have to solve the matter. Try to bring a resolution to that matter. It's called good people management. Planning, the ability to determine how best to use resources over a period of time. A good leader plans well. Next one, execution, able to carry out that plan. 3, consistency. I like those 3. Planning, execution, consistency. Look at that. You plan, you execute, and consistency. You know why? I can plan, but I can fail to execute. Or I can plan, I can execute, but I see there's no consistency. Right? For example, this Bible college is going to be 20 years next year, 2025. 20 years. Oh, I think it was, almost 20 years. 20 years. What is that called? Consistency. Right? Were there ups and downs? Yes. We've moved to many places. Right? Many times there was no place to get a hostel. I remember that. Very difficult to find a place. We didn't have a place at some time. So we had classes in APC office. Students would come, sit in office, finish the class, and they'll go back to the hostel. Consistency. Even through the ups and downs. What we have to do, we will do. Right? Evaluation. The ability to look at a situation objectively, identify weakness, and take corrective action. Evaluate a situation. Right? Then problem solving. A leader looks for a solution in the midst of a problem. So you and I must develop the ability to learn how to solve problems. Continuous learning. We talked about that. Adaptability, ability to change. Follow. A great leader must also learn to be a great follower. Raising successors means raising up other leaders. So look at these aspects. It's so beautiful that we can learn all of this at such a young age, right? The right way to lead in a ministry, and you use these principles even in the workplace, you will be effective because these are biblical principles that we are learning, right? Be fruitful, not just busy. That's what even Paul said, no? There are some busy bodies. They're just pretending to be doing something fruitful, but they're just busy. They're not being fruitful at all. The goal in organizing and doing ministry in a proper way is not just that everyone is busy, but rather everything is fruitful. Put the right people in the right place for different ministries. For example, I am not very good with children. Now, if I'm in children's ministry, I cannot do it. I will not be effective. I led worship, I think 1 or 2 times in children's church, and I didn't know what to do. Nobody was listening to me only. Right? They were all running. They were on their own world. And I thought, why are they like this? But I didn't understand. That's how children are. But then the other week, I saw another person leading so well. She led, come on, children, come together and all that. She said, let's form a team. And very nice worship. No, I can't do that. I thought to myself, see, you see the gift there. It's a grace that God gives us. You need to have the right people in the right place to be effective in ministry, right? And that's where our gifts and our talents are being used, right? There's a gifting. God opens the door in that area of our life, right? Sometimes you may need to close the curtain down on an area of ministry. That means you give you give a try to a certain ministry, and it's working, and sometimes it doesn't work. So it's 1 year, it's not working, 2 years, not working. So what you can also do is, when you start a ministry within a local church, think about this. You can say, I'm going to try this for 2 years. If I don't see improvement, or I don't see any progress, I don't see any fruit, I'm going to close it down. And we did quite a few of that, right? So, where we say, okay, let's plan this. We'll keep a period of 2 years. 2 years is a good time to see fruit or no. And if there's no fruit, close it down. There's fruit, keep building on it, right? And so the same thing you can also do, right, in a church organization. Now, closing down a ministry can be very hard, and within the church, oh, how do I close it down? But it's good. If it's beneficial for the church, you'll have to do it, right? It's the church that is more important than than just doing things or doing events just for the sake of doing it, right? So, for example, let me share this example. Now, for 2025, we've cut down on a certain events, and for different other reasons, but we've cut down on few events. Why? Because we thought, okay, let's wait for some time. We've been doing this for quite some time, so we cut down. We don't know. We may start it again, or we may not start it again. But we'll see how these ministries go. Are they being effective? And make those decisions. Now, next point, keep your finances in order. Many times, churches and ministries have been dragged to court, and there's a case over them. Why? Because of improper usage of funds, church funds. Do we see this in the news right now? Sad. Right? Big ministries, millions coming inside. Right? But they're in the court. Why? No proper accounts. Right? So keep proper accounts. Everything, keep proper accounts. So if you have a building fund. If somebody gives for building fund, don't use it for men's ministry conference, men's conference. That's for building fund, leave it there. Somebody gives you for sound equipment, use it for that. Whatever, right? Keep your accounts proper. Follow legal requirements. Do not spend money you do not have. Avoid unmanageable debt. Very important. In a hurry or in excitement or zeal, we may end up making wrong decisions. Let me give you an example. Now, there's a youth. He comes to APC, he says, oh, wow, LED screen. And he sees the beautiful, the stage and all of it. Now, he says to himself, I also want this. Good. But the mistake is, if this person goes back to, say, he goes back to his hometown and he hires a hall and he hires vendors to put an LED screen, stage lights, all of it. Now, he may have 10 people in church. Is it required? Why? Because that's not the time to have all of this. Do not spend money that you do not have. Firstly, he doesn't have the money. 10 people are giving into the church. And he may have some savings and all of it, but it's not required at that time. Right? So avoid unmanageable debt. Do not be hasty. Start with what you have and build in God's timing. Do not be hasty. There were 12 people sitting in a house here, if you in the north of Bangalore, that started APC. What you see now, 12 people in a house. Started like that. Whose house? Pastor's father's house. 12 people. At that time, that's how it was. Now it's like this. 23 years later. So it takes time, right? Do not be hasty. Next, have and maintain a budget. Step out in faith under the leading of God. It's very easy to give up when we don't see progress. Step out in faith and allow God to lead you. Maintaining accounts, we talked about it. Maintaining a good account system. Some things that we do in APC is each location has, our volunteers count the offerings that come in, and we have log books. So we write down Sunday, November 10th. This is the amount. These are this thing that has come in, the notes, the denominations, everything is written, maintained. 2-3 people sign there. And these logbooks are kept here, but the thing that comes here, the offering covers that come here goes directly to the church office, to the accountant. The accountant takes it, consolidates everything, puts it into the bank, but then what she does is she makes reports for each location. For this Sunday, this is the amount. This Sunday, this is the amount. Everything consolidated, put it in, and everything is on WhatsApp. Even now, if we go to, on the phone, if I go to January 2024, any Sunday, I can see what was the amount that came in, from which location, everything put together. The volunteers and the team also can see it. Accountability, right? It's not just one person doing whatever they feel like. Yes, Atul.
Pastor, let's say you have some requirement for some media team or speakers or anything, and you have got funds for missions. No, it is right when you say you're not using that fund for this thing. So then do you really keep waiting till you get funds for that particular thing, or it's fine if you use a general offertory as per the requirement?
Yeah. So see, here's the thing. When your church is small, right, and you need to buy equipment, you're talking about a church that has just started or a church that is established? Just start. So normally, if it's just started and you have a separate thing of, okay, so missions, if you have a separate thing and somebody gives for that, it's good to honor what they are saying, because they may be having a heart for missions. They may say, okay, I'm giving you this amount. You can either bless churches outside of India, North India, wherever, or you can use it as a team. You are going on missions, use it for that. But if I use it for something else, like sound, speakers and all, then I'm not honoring what he is giving it for. Right? Now, I should respect that. So I would say I wouldn't do it. Right? But I do understand there's a need. There's a need. We need speakers. We need 2 mics. But if that person has trusted you and given it for missions, you and I must, as leaders, need to learn to keep that trust. Yes. In general offertory, you can use it. In general offertory, you can use. So, for example, there will be some people from church who say, this is for Bible college. Now, that may not cover the entire cost for Bible college. So, from the general offertory, things are used for this. Simple. But if people give towards that, it has to go towards that. Right? Yeah. Maintaining accounts. Okay. Legal and financial obligations. Again, it'll be good if you can get a lawyer and do this, right? You need to have a PAN account number, tax account number, register your professional tax, all of this. So best thing is just have an accountant, right? If you're opening a church or trust, have an accountant. They'll look after everything. Put everything in writing. Cover the legal aspects. Put one thing that we do in APC is everything is sent, put in writing, put in documents, sent via email when required. Everything. Put it in writing. So that you know that what you're doing is documented in the future, right? Whatever it is. So from the time I joined APC, I can go to my email and pick up if I say, hey, in 2012, Pastor told me this. And he had sent me an email regarding it. If I just put 2012, or if I remember, if I say life groups 2012, I'll get the email. I can go back to it and see. Okay. 2012, surprisingly, this morning I was just looking at some of the reports of life group reports I sent in 2012. And then I saw the report. It was so different to the reports that we send now, 12 years later. Uh, right? So we still have access to it, is what I'm trying to say. Right? So the point of this whole learning is do things in the right way, have a good structure, you will have a good, effective organization. And that way, your ministry will be dynamic, it'll be effective. Now, some of us may be in towns and villages, and we are thinking to ourselves, how will I do all of this? Oh, you can. You really can. Right? It's all about that ability to set things in place. Whether it's a town or whether it's a village, you can set things in place. And eventually, you can see, even if it's a village church, it can be very effective. You can have a good structure to the church when you follow these principles. Right? Any questions? Shall we go to the next portion? Chapter 27. Is it too much? Okay. Organizing small groups. Now, we all are aware of this, small groups, cell groups. Here in APC, we call it life groups, small groups which meet in different places. And, a small group here in APC, we have different kinds of life groups. We have youth boys, youth girls, family, men, online life groups, women's life groups, so different kinds of life groups. What is the purpose of these life groups? 5 purposes here: fellowship, discipleship, member care, evangelism, and ministry. Right? So, life groups meet either once a week or once in 2 weeks. Responsibility: invite new people, engage in life groups. That's the place where you and I can really disciple, mentor one another. People are free to share their thoughts, share their learnings, make mistakes, learn, grow in that area. Life group dynamics: sharing of life, asking questions, answering questions, support, encouragement for spiritual growth. Right now, all of us have heard about life groups that we have in APC. Right? So it's basically cell groups that meet in different parts of Bangalore, and they have different timings. But what we do is something that has helped us is over time we have come to this conclusion that all life groups will discuss the Sunday sermon, so that if you go to our website, go to the sermon notes, right at the bottom, you'll see sermon LG study material with about 3 or 4 questions. So what happens in the life group is all life groups get together and they discuss these 4 questions. So for example, on Sunday yesterday, we spoke on fighting. No, what was it? Sorry. What was yesterday's sermon? I've blanked out. Yes, the violent. I'm only getting this. The violent take it by force. I preached the sermon. Okay, the violent take it by force. Now, on life groups, what will happen is most of the life groups will meet on Saturday, some of them on Friday. So, what they'll do is they'll pull up the sermon notes. There are 3, 4 questions. So, they'll have worship, prayer, or whatever, icebreaker, and then they'll discuss these 4 points. So, we know that all life groups, we are 43 right now. So, all life groups are talking about the same thing. This is a place where it really is a wonderful place to raise up, disciple, and to raise up leaders, because you have one-on-one mentoring. And at APC, we have 12 people in each life group. And what we try to do is, once you're more than 12, we encourage them to step out, start a new life group. Right? So it's not like we're having competition between each other. It's just the whole point of the life group. The vision is to disciple, mentor, raise up leaders. Right? So chapter 28 is again a mega church and a multi-site church. What is a mega church? Sorry? Congregation. Okay, 10,000. Huh? Okay. Yeah, I would say 5,000 also is anything. Yeah, the huge churches are called the mega church. Now, remember, the mega churches were also small churches, probably started with two or three, right? So, in recent times, we've seen mega churches, typically congregations of 2,000 and more. Mega churches can affect societies in large ways, right? It enables us to, as believers, as Christians, to make our stand and say, hey, we are something in this society. We are going to make a mark. We are going to be salt. We are going to be a light. And so it gives us access, uh, right? These mega church leaders, we have access to people, to governments, which is a good thing. But it can also turn out to be, it can turn out to affect the church as well. So we need to be very careful when it comes to mega churches. But do we need a mega church? Yes. Peter spoke, 3,000 people were added, immediate mega church. That's the only time. I don't think after that any time there was a mega church in one sermon, right? But mega churches is God's design. He can do it, right? If He wants to. I think in Hyderabad, is that Hyderabad? Yeah, Calvary Chapel, huge, huge church, and I'm sure there are many, many, many leaders there, um, teams, leaders, pastors. I don't know how many pastors will be there. Maybe about 1,000 odd pastors itself. Uh, but it's good. We're able to make an impact in society. A multi-site church is a best example would be like APC. Right? So we have central, north, south, east, west, multi-sites. And all of these, our primary motivation is planting out accessibility and outreach so that we are able to expand within the city. Right? So people are able to focus on, okay, so if they go to north, okay, these are people that we can minister to and we can reach out, evangelize. South, these are the places, these are the areas. So multi-site, but they all are one church. Now in APC, we have, right now we have 4 locations. So all are one. I'm not saying, oh, north is here, east is here, south is, no, we're all one location. So that's why you'll find, we all sometimes we mix around. We have worship members who go to different locations and serve. Why? Because we are one, right? One church, many locations. And the Sunday service that is being preached is preached in all locations as well. Okay, let's take a break. Okay, so those, just a message to the e-learning students, we just wanted to complete the portion. So we will be continuing this 3rd hour with this chapter, and we'll be bringing this course to a close. So we'll take a break, we'll come back, and we'll come back at 11, take a 15-minute break. We'll come back at 11, and then we'll just go through the few more chapters and bring this course to a close. Right. Take a break, we'll come back. Thank you.